Welcome back, travelers, to legendary lore and the end, the promised end of Eldritch Moon, which is, of course, prior to Midnight Hunt. We're going to pick up on this fight with Emrakul. Joe, how are you feeling about this?
Let's see what we can do here.
So it opens up with Liliana, and she's looking at basically the gate watch. You got Gideon flailing, you got Nisa like, and you got Chandra going, ah! And then you have Jace who has no idea what to do. And she's thinking, wow, these guys are basically useless. And then she sees a moonfolk just fly into view. And she's like, that's probably the one that Jace mentioned. Now we got 2 mind mages. That sounds helpful. And she looks up at Emrakul. And like her zombies have been protecting everybody. Because remember, zombies aren't affected by the Emrakul's influence. So an army of zombies is the perfect thing to have. And so she's thinking to herself, why is Emrakul just sitting up in the sky? What is she going to do? Like a sphere of power bursts from Emrakul and hits the planeswalkers. And like she feels it, like it's a mental assault. And when it hit her, and she like is able to actually push Emrakul's influence out of her because of the chain veil specifically, which already exerts its own influence, right? Mm-hmm. Liliana does not like people in her head at all, right? Mm-hmm. And so she's like, no, get out of my head. I don't like the Raven Man. I don't like the chain veil. I don't like Emrakul. This is my head. This is mine. These are my zombies, my chain veil. All of it's mine. And she is not happy. And then all her zombies moan a single word, Joe. And you know what that word is? Emrakul. So even like at this amount of presence, Emrakul is even able to tap into zombie brains. It's Jace. And he is trying everything he can to not succumb to Emrakul, right? And he's in like basically in this giant purple tower. And there's like a bunch of like rainy glass around him. Mm-hmm. Obviously, this is his mind. He's like a mind palace kind of deal, right?
Yeah.
And there's a staircase that leads down, and it's the only way he can go. So he thinks, okay, well, you know what? I gotta go that way. And so he starts descending the staircase, right? And he's thinking of Emrakul. And he's thinking, what is that word? What is an Emrakul? And like he's like, how do I know that? Why could I not know that? And he's trying to remember Emrakul and Eldrazi, the Eldrazi. Yes, okay, don't think about it. Where am I? What is this place? And he's thinking, okay, Gideon, Tamio, Nisa, Chandra, Liliana. And he's like, Liliana. And that's right, she came back. And there's like a peal of thunder. And then he can see like Emrakul's tentacles outside of the tower, and they're tearing at the stone, like the stonework of it. Mm-hmm. And it's slowly being dismantled. Remember, the tower basically being representative of his mind. And he can see that there's a light below. There's a soft white light. And so he starts to go down. And he can still hear everything. And all he can hear is move now, go downstairs. Then we cut back to Liliana. And it says her blood is on fire. Her mind in shreds. And only one force keeps her coherent. Joe, do you know what that force is?
Chain veil?
It's not the chain veil.
Anger?
You're close. It's rage. It's pure white hot rage. Those are my zombies. Mine. You will not have them. Because she wasn't going to let them take, she wasn't going to let Emrakul take her zombies, her hard-earned zombies.
I found those grave plots. I defiled them.
And so basically she exerts her influence and pulls the zombies back towards her. And she looks at the others, Chandra, Tamio, Gideon, and they're all on the ground unconscious. And she reaches out with like her necromancy, and she's like, oh, they're still alive. That's my bad. And then Nisa is standing and she's screaming. And she's screaming gibberish, and there's this green and purple energy pooling around her. And it's all like it's going back and forth. And then when she's looking at Jay, she knows that there's like this bluish glow around him, like a penumbra. And it extends to the other 5 walkers. And she's thinking, is that why they're still alive? Because the penumbra is not touching her, but she doesn't need it anyways, because she has like all this power and all this wisdom and all this ruthlessness. Because she's over
I'm really mad.
Yeah, she's over 200 years old, so she doesn't care about any of that. And so she's fighting off Emrakul herself with the chain veil, of course. Then it cuts back to Jace, and he's still going down that staircase. He's going down the staircase, and he reaches a window, and he looks through the window. It's like stone, and it turns to glass, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he looks through it, and remember, he's in a tower, so he's looking basically into another room. He sees Gideon, and he's looking up at Erebos. And Erebos is terrifying. Gideon is pure fear. And he can see that the other members of the Gatewatch are there. Even Jace. So this is in Gideon's mind, basically. And it says, and what is it you, Kithian Yura, most desire? What do you truly want? And so Gideon...
Like, who?
Yeah, pretty much. And so basically Jace is getting peering into Gideon's mind. And this whole time Erebos is basically saying, what is it you want? And Gideon keeps saying, I want to protect people. I want to defeat you. I want to do this. I want to do that. And it's like, no. And then Erebos sends out a whip and he disintegrates Nisa. Of course, this is the mind Nisa. And like Gideon's like, oh, snip. And he just starts killing everybody. And before he can say anything, the window goes dark. And Jace is like, I have so many questions. Who is Erebos? What is Gideon going through? What's a Kithian? And he gets down to Tamio, and like in her room, right? And there's like this blood leaking from Tamio's eyes, and it's dripping onto the thing. And these lattices come out of her eyes, and they cover her entire face, and they start covering her nose and her mouth. Back to Liliana. She is on a power trip. She's like, I was restraining myself. How foolish could I be? I can kill anything. I don't have to die. And she's looking at Emrakul, and she's like, if I think you are a thing, a powerful thing, but something that lives. And if you live, you can die. And if you die, you belong to me. So you literally have like the embodiment of life in Emrakul and the embodiment of death in Liliana. And so Jace continues to descend. Back to Jace, right? And he's going down, and he goes to another window, and it's Chandra, or at least he thinks it's Chandra, because it looks like a little girl, and she's got like the short red hair, and her face is like he can tell it's probably Chandra, and she's surrounded in Kaladesh. At this point, they've never been to Kaladesh, so he sees this, and he's like, that's weird. And Chandra's just on the ground, surrounded by people with pikes, and she's crying. And one of the guys, he like goes up to her, and he says, "We killed your daddy, renegade. We killed your mommy. And now we're going to kill you." And the guy says, the best part is there's nothing you can do about it. And she's like, you're wrong. There's nothing I can do. The little child Chandra. And as she says that, she begins to like actually grow up into actual Chandra. Something I can always do. I can burn. And so she basically becomes Chandra ablaze on the spot. And she's like, I can make the whole world burn.
Because, I remember that one. We shared stone together.
And so it happens. She explodes into Chandra, and she just blasts through everything. And the window fades away. And he's like, I don't know if she's winning or losing. Like, is she screaming because she's like angry, in agony? Is it like a victory screech? I don't know what's going on. And so behind Nisa, in the background, her little window, it's exactly like the outside world. Dark purple sky, flashes of light, looming shadow of Emrakul, Liliana and her zombies. And he sees Nisa screaming and writhing, twisting, contorting, shaking, and her hands wriggling and changing into tentacles. And each of her little fingers grew new fingers. And they kept like just sprouting and sprouting and sprouting. And then from her eyes, there were smaller eyes sprouting from her eyes. And the wall goes back to stone. And he keeps going down and down and down, and he's like, I need to sleep. I could sleep. I might not wake up, but why would that be so bad? And his eyes start to droop, and he goes, I'm so tired. And he's trying to drift out to sleep, and then he remembers Liliana, and he's like, she isn't here. She's not here. So like she compared him to a dog. I'm a dog. Would she really care? Like does she care? Like, I'm a dog. Sleep. I could be thinking about, why am I thinking about sleeping? What is happening? Does any of this matter? The solution is the same. Just go down the stairs. Figure it out. Don't die, Pete Emrakul. And he thinks about Liliana. He just keeps going down the stairs. Then we go back to Liliana. And she's laughing maniacally. And like everyone is obviously going insane in this moment. If anything from this legendary lore, you should be able to get the sense that it's absolute chaos and madness, and it's entirely intentional. Yes, it's moving along, but no one is really like actively thinking or strategizing anything. It's literally just Liliana going power, 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 and Jay saying horror, horror, horror. And again, it's just more of the same for Liliana. And Emrakul goes, oof, and he like kind of grows a little bit, and she's like, I'm not going to die. And he's like, you've doomed us. Raven Man just kind of gets quiet. Liliana's afraid. Goes back to Jace. He's waiting for a scene of Liliana. And he keeps going, and he's at the bottom of the stairway. There's a door, a thick oak door, banded with iron. No porthole, no keyhole, just wood and iron. And a voice in his head just screams, no, 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 no. And it's just pure terror. And he's thinking, okay, do I push open this door? Door. Everyone in the comments and Joe, would you open this door?
I wouldn't.
You wouldn't open the door, you just stay in the tower. He opens the door. This is my favorite part of this story. He opens the door into a colorless room, and there's an angel in front of him. This angel is tall, really, really tall. And she's got these huge wings, and like they form like an arc like this across, like over her head, and they're just up, right? Like it looks almost like a mushroom cloud, basically. And he's like, oh no, no, oh no, 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 no. I don't know if I'll ever stop, so I better not scream. Would crying help? I'm open to crying if it will help. Because as he looks at the ribbons along her hemline, they begin to writhe. He's looking straight at Emrakul. And so he starts to laugh.
That's how Emrakul sees herself.
That's how Emeria is depicted. Emeria, the angel Emrakul goddess from Zendikar. And so he's laughing and goes, I'm so glad I find myself funny. I know this angel, I've seen her before. And he links back to Zendikar. Emeria. And then she looks at him. But she has her face cloaked in a hood. Are you Emeria? Are you Emrakul? May I sit down? And he's like, okay. Not these circumstances though. Okay. Normal-ish. Close enough to normal. You're asking me. He's like, well, she goes, this is your home, Jace Bellerin. He's like, I'm very afraid right now, and I'm also so very curious. What an odd juxtaposition. And she's like, I'm just visiting.
It's like the first time I met Liliana.
So very curious. And he's like, remember what's important. Don't die. Figure it out. Beat Emrakul. And she just sits down. Maybe invite Emrakul for a cup of tea. And he goes, please, by all means, please sit down. And he's like, no, I don't want. But no, what is this? Stop assuming I do. And the angel sits at the table. And he's like, I've seen. She's like, her hands come back to the table. And she sheathes her swords. By the way, she was holding swords. She puts them and she takes out a scroll with iron bands. And she's like, you don't mind if I work while I talk, do you? And he feels like it's an Azorius Guildmage kind of thing, talking about like protocol with him. And he's like, okay, you know what? This is just weird. I'm just going to go with it. Of course, please. I don't want to keep you from your work. He goes, where have I seen that scroll? And so they're sitting down like old friends and they're just talking. And so, again, read it. It's great. I'm just going to skip a bit because he's trying to figure out, is this Emrakul? Because this is wrong. It's incomplete. Nothing makes sense. And I don't understand. And then she goes, do you want to play chess? And Jesus like, what's happening? And so he's like, I'm not sure I have time to play. She goes, if you win, this all stops. I'll give you the answers you want. And he's like, I'm really good at chess. And if you win, she goes, I'm already winning. Let us play a game. It's like, oh, snap. He goes, well, there's a problem. Well, I don't have a chessboard. And the angel just waves her hand and a chessboard appears. And he's like, of course. That makes sense. Hopefully all she can do is create chessboards. And so she's like, she gives Jace the white side. So he basically gets to go first because white goes first and then it's the black or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. And she goes, you need to move faster, Jace. Time is running out. And he's like, what? Communication between us is difficult. I cannot talk to you. I don't even really know you exist, but your brain, it is very adaptable. And then he makes a mistake. He goes, oh. And so he thought he would have had checkmate in 5 moves. Because of what she did. So he's like, okay, good. He goes, and what is all of this? What are you? How does my adaptable brain make it happen? And she goes, well, you know the answers. Or at least part of you does. How's your headache? And he's like, how did you know about my headache? Because, are you real? She goes, I was personified a long time ago.
He goes, I am your headache.
Forces cannot be reasoned with. Agency does not exist in propagating waves. If you take a shortcut to try and grapple with what you cannot perceive, cannot even comprehend, who am I to gainsay? No one. You, perhaps. And he's like, my headache! And he's like, checkmate to move away. I can do this. I can win. What? And he's like, this is not Emrakul. This is not Ameria. This is not Emrakul. This is my mind. I'm talking to myself. And he's like, forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. And he's like, enough. No, Brad. Checkmate. I won. I did it. Right? And she goes, so it is. And she puts her hands to her hood and lowers it. And then, he did not want to look at her, but she looked normal, like an angel, like the statue you saw in Zendikar. He's like, oh. And then he looks at the pawns that are beside the queen, one of the pawns she took, and it starts to writhe. And he's like, no! And then the pawn grows hands, and a little stone sword comes out of it, and it stabs the queen. And the queen falls to the ground, and there's blood pouring out of the queen. He's like, what's happening? And the pieces start to mutate, and he's like, I don't understand. And all of them start killing each other like an actual, and then the one of the fewer many pieces pirouettes and faces the other side of the board, and they all have weapons that all drip in blood, and they all start marching towards Jace's king. And he's like, what's happening? And the king looks like Jace, and he's like, this isn't fair. You cheated. Those are my pieces. And then he looks at the angel, and the angel's face starts melting, and there's chunks of flesh coming off of it. And it's like the wing, the sword, the ribbon, it starts to dissipate in purple smoke. And she goes, these are all my pieces, Jace Bellerin. They always were. I just no longer want to play. And there's this huge explosion, and the top of the room explodes, and Emrakul's standing over him, and it's this giant mushroom cloud with hundreds of tendrils, and it's like, what? And she says, it is coming, Jace. I am coming. Keep moving. Find your answers. But quickly, time points one way, and it does so with hunger. Jace runs away through the door. And then we're back to Liliana, and she's doing everything she can. She's fighting back. And she thought that she had figured out how everything was working, and she realized she was wrong. And she realized she's losing. And she's fighting back against Emrakul as best as she can. She realizes she's going to die. And she looks back at the other planeswalkers, and they're still slightly protected by her dwindling zombies. This is not going well. And so she yells, Jace, as loud as she can. She goes, you better be doing something useful. And all she can think is, hold off, one more moment. And Jace goes through the door, and he's in a small dark room, and he sees himself. And he's thinking to himself, oh, this should be good. The copy says, it's about time you got here, but I don't know you're me. Answer this riddle. And he goes, what? No, I don't. He goes, first a riddle. You must be joking. I'm not going to stand here and get quizzed by either a runaway tyrant version of myself, or worse, some malignant imposter who just wants to waste my time. And he looks at the copy, who just smiles at him. He goes, am I really this infuriating? I am this infuriating. I need to work on that. Because remember, this is before Ixalan, so he was still just like, yeah, blue bag. Blue. So,
yeah.
He goes, how do I know you're me? And he goes, because I'm the one with answers. You're wasting time we don't have. Because basically the idea is that Jace's mind is shattered, and he's seeing himself, possibly. No bigger than a pebble, but my closing covers the entire world. What am I? It's an eye, Joe. It's an eye. When you close your eyes, you cover the entire world, even though it's no bigger than a pebble. So they start talking, and they're trying to figure out what they're going to do. I'm going to skip a lot of the condescending going back and forth, right? And he goes, that's what you want me to do? Talk with Tamio? Okay, sure.
I just said that.
So when all this is happening, the copy then says Liliana is about to die, and the tower fades away, and Jace comes to, and it's chaos, and Liliana is on the ground, unconscious, bleeding profusely from multiple wounds, and Emrakul is still unfolding, still right over him, and it's like, oh snap. And so Liliana's zombies have shrunken considerably. All the other planeswalkers are regaining their consciousness as well. Chandra, Gideon, Liliana's zombies need your help. Go do that. We can't let the minions through. And so Gideon moves first, starts doing his thing, and like as he's moving the Sorrel, he thinks of Erebos's whip that like was just killing everybody, right? And then Chandra's like, okay, yeah, I can still try to burn her. I got this. And so she goes, and the like he sees the confidence, and he thinks to himself about her as well. And when he thinks about burning Emrakul, he says that it doesn't feel right and doesn't feel possible, which is weird considering he did it to an indestructible Ulamog and Kozilek, right? And then Tamio comes over to to Jace and says, remember what Avacyn said, what cannot be destroyed must be bound. And she's like, that's what we have to do. If we can't kill her, we can bind her. And they're like, well, where are we going to get a big enough silver prison to put her? And they're like, well, think about the Hell Vault. And they're like, well, that's destroyed. We can't do that. And she goes, the moon, a silver moon. Tamio and Jace and Nissa all work together, mainly Tamio and Nissa, and they seal Emrakul in the moon. And Liliana's alive, and she's super excited that she's alive. She thinks back to how she killed Katafet and Grizzlebrand, and how like she's cheated death so many times, and she loves it. She loves that's the best kind of cheating. And so she thinks about it, and she's like, these planeswalkers around me, my friends, they did really good. They stopped Emrakul. If I run into a pinch, these guys, they can do it. They can take this on. Hey, Jace. I have an idea. What was the thing you were doing with your spell? And he was like, oh, it was just me. I was working with the group, and we were like keeping everybody alive, right? And she goes, okay, I have an idea. I'm going to go ahead and join the Gatewatch. Gideon's immediately ready. Like, it is like, join the Gatewatch? Great idea.
We want you for the I get it.
And she goes, I see that together we're more powerful than we were alone. If that means I can do what needs to be done without relying on the chain veil, then I will keep watch. Happy now?
I just imagine they're like, it's a shame nobody else wants to join the Gatewatch. And you mentioned Tamio was vomiting. She's just like, I want to.
Well, that's the thing.
Never mind, y'all.
Jace then extends the invitation. Like, Tamio, do you want to do it? And Tamio's like, no. Because this entire time, Tamio had been talking about not intervening. You have to remember that Tamio is blue, right? Mm-hmm. But that she's all like because of this experience is blue, green, white. She was non-interventionist and kind of got pulled into it, realizing that she could actually help throughout the story.
So
and that's kind of just
like, yeah, this hero thing's not going to be a habit.
So Jace approaches Tamio, and he's like, what happened? Back when you were shoving Emrakul back into the thing, Nissa collapsed. You guys weren't going to do it, but somehow, for some reason, Emrakul still went in. And when that happened, I lost my mental connection to you. Are you okay? And Tamio's crying. She goes, I don't know if that was me. I don't know where the energy came from. I know that I took a scroll, an iron scroll from my bag, and I used that energy, but I don't know if Emrakul wanted me to do that. And it's at that point, Jace remembers those chess pieces that were stabbing each other and remembers that Emrakul says, they're all my pieces. And she just no longer wants to play. The spell that she read, that she opened, it was a different spell from the one that she had that was on the scroll. That scroll was the one that Emeria was writing. Emrakul specifically gave Tamio the ability to seal them away and gave her the idea. And then Tamio says, sometimes our stories have to end. Yet here we are, each seeking to prolong our story, no matter the cost. But what if all stories are just her story? Some awful destiny waiting to unfold. And then he remembers the angel's words. This is all wrong. I am incomplete, unfulfilled, inchoate. There should be blossoms, not barren resentment. The soil was not receptive. It is not my time, not yet. And it's at this point that Jace realizes that Emrakul's influence is basically a natural thing, and that she just knew Innistrad was not ready for her as a plane. And that's how it ends.